How's it going? It's Professor Drew Plasick again. Now we're going to look at Module 2 in the Excel Basic Learning. And in this module, we're going to look at some basic finance techniques we can use. And we're actually going to use what we did before on some of the relative and absolute references in the cell. And we're going to use it for our financial uh, functions, our data, and our balance sheet. So we'll show an example of it. The first thing we're going to look at, this is an example of earnings before taxes. So this is EBT. And we got 2021 and 22. And then we want to know how much taxes we got paid. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select taxes paid. And again, the Excel sheet, just like we did in the first module, please download it. And if you look at the bottom, we did module 1. This is going to be module 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I'm going to take the earnings before taxes, right? And I want to multiply that. So I'm going to hit the Shift 8. I'm going to multiply it. And I'm going to multiply it times the 35%, okay? And what I want to do is I want to drag this across one time. And I want 49.2 multiplied times 35. And I want the 54.9 multiplied times 35. And then 62.1 times 35. And I don't want to do the calculation, all three of them separate. So what I'm going to do is the D6 is the earning before taxes. So when I shift it to the right, or when I drag it to the right, or I do the shift and I do the Control R to the right, I don't want to mess with D6. I want that to drag to the next cell over. However, the tax rate, I do not want it to move when I drag it to the right. So what I want to do is I want to put an absolute reference on the tax rate. And see how it did the dollar sign in front of the row and the column. And what I want to do is, well, I could leave it like this if I wanted to. But if you want to do it exact what it should be, because there are some things you have to drag down. You want it to drag it down, but not to the right in finance. So what I'm going to do is, if I drag it to the right, technically I just need it in front of the letter, not the number, right? So I'm going to hit enter, and then that was 35%. Multiply times 49.2. So I highly recommend to do this Excel sheet, and then you can see it work. Lights up green, you did it correct. I'm going to hold down Control R. That's going to be the next one. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click this, or I can hit Function F2 to get inside there. And now it's going to show that the EBT shifted to the right, but the tax was absolute and did not move. So I know I'm doing it right. I'm going to Control R, and it moved it to the right there, and nothing, the tax rate multiplied all three times. So it did exactly what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight those. If you notice that there's 3 decimals on 2 of those, and I don't want that. I actually want 1 decimal. I don't need 2. It is stored in Excel as many decimals as you want. But what you view is just what you see. It still has the correct decimals inside that number. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the number, and I'm going to go to the right. And that made it less. If I go one more time, there's no decimals. It's going to round up or down, even though it's that number. That does not change, just what you see. If I go to the left, I have more decimals. All right, next I got a balance sheet. I'm going to show what we could do here. We got assets. I got cash, accounts receivable, inventory, prepaid expenses, and other. And what we want to know is what is the total current assets. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down Alt equals, or I could hit equals sum and then tab, get into it and highlight it. Or I could go to our auto sum up there. But I would like you to get used to Alt equals, and I believe a Mac is Command Shift T. So I'm going to hit enter, and that's what I wanted. So when I'm going to hold down Shift, this is how you do it really quick in finance. I'm going to hold down Shift. I'm going to go all the way over because I want all those calculated. I hit Control R, and it perfectly summed up all those values. Next, I got an athlete named Barry Sanders that played back in the day. So it's been a while, over 27 years. And I'm just going to calculate the same thing here. We want to know his career. I believe this is just going to be good practice. I'm going to Alt equals. I'm going to sum up those values. And I don't think I did any other calculation. Let's see. You know what I did there? So this is a good practice. I summed up all the values besides the average. So here what I want to do is I want to find out what is the average carry Barry Sanders had. Okay, so what we did before, we hit equals and sum, that's adding. Or what I could do is hit equals and average. Okay, I type in AVER, it's going to pop up the first one. I hit tab, and then I'm into the function, or you double click it. So I'm going to show that again. I'm going to equals. It's that I'm looking there, it's there, or I could double click it. I'm in there, so I'm going to hit an up arrow. I want that one, and I want to find out the average of those. And he ran for 4.98 yards. All right, last part of Module 2, we want to find the following stats from his career. All right, let's figure this out. I need to know the total yards for his career, so I'm going to go into this cell and hit sum. Where's yards? So I'm going to select that cell, hold down shift, highlight his career there, hit enter. That's his total, which we already had there. I want to know his average yards per carry, which I already solved. But let's do it again. I'm going to hold down that. Now I'm going to go all the way up to his carries, hold down shift. Next, I want to know what is the maximum touchdowns did Barry Sanders have in a season? So what I want to know, I mean, I could look at it. I can see that 16 is the max he had in a season. But I'm going to introduce you to a new function, and that's called the max function. If you highlight a bunch of numbers, it's just going to give you what is the most out of those cells, and it's broken down to individual cells. So I'm going to hit equals, and I'm going to type in max, hit tab, and I want to know the max was the most touchdowns. So I'm going to highlight and hold down shift, and it's going to look for the most, which was 16. Now I want to know what is the minimum touchdowns in a season. So I'm going to hit equals. Instead of max, I'm going to type in min. The first thing that pops up. Again, I'm going to hit tab to get into the function. Make sure you get into the function. One of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they don't get into the function, and what they do is they just assume they are, and they start going up there, and it just looks like minimum the word, or min, and you're just adding numbers, so it doesn't work. So you got to hit tab to get into that. So I want to know what was the minimum touchdowns. Again, I'm going to hold down shift. That was 3. What is his average carries per season? So I think that would be a average. I'm going to highlight his seasons. Hit enter. So it's a 306. Okay, and last, what I want to do is I want to calculate how many years did Barry Sanders play? Well, so what I want to do is we have all these cells. A couple things I can do. I want to show you a trick here. I'm going to highlight those cells. If I go to the bottom right, you see it says average. It actually automatically calculated the average. So if you need to find out numbers really quick, you have some data down here on the cell. I got average. I got count. That means how many cells are there. There's 10 cells with numbers. And then it actually has a sum function. So I could actually highlight any of these or just a certain amount of years, and it's going to show me the average, the count, and the sum. If I right click on that bottom, look, I can add in minimum, I could add in maximum, and now I got more features down there. And why would you need that? Well, if I just want to know the answer to something really quick, that's why you would use it. All right, let's go back here. There is a function for that. Just make it very simple. I'm going to say equals, and I'm going to say count A. Count A counts the number of cells in a range that are not empty. That's what count A does. And what I want to know is how many years did he play. So it's going to highlight those numbers. Oh, something happened there. Sometimes that happens. So count A. So I'm going to highlight those all the seasons he had, and he had 10 years. Well, there you go. That's module 2. And what we're going to do is next video, I'll see you then. We'll talk about module 3, which is more advanced techniques and if functions. And this is more for people that really want to advance their Excel their finance career, but they really want to get better at Excel. I'll see you then.